Assassins are some of the most addictive champions to play in League of Legends, and junglers of all ranks have always desired to figure out how to carry and destroy with this class. In this Ultimate Jungle Assassin Guide, I will give you every piece of information you need to carry, win, and climb with these champions, essentially discussing the philosophy of the assassins through breaking down their playstyle, strategies, and the ultimate teamfighting guide. And what better way to start than talk about the game plans and measured aggression of the assassin junglers. Now, as you would have seen, and I'll show the highlight here, there aren't that many pure assassins out of all of the jungle registered picks. It feels like there's always more, but really there's only about 10 or so, and all of those ones there, you can see exactly which ones thrive on full clears and which ones do not. Which means for assassins, in terms of your game plans, you need to understand, am I a flexi clear gamer? Am I a red quadrant ganker? Or am I a full clear level 4 savant? You need to pick which one for your champion is the best, because the goal, my friends, for all assassins in the early game is kills and pressure. Kills and pressure, remember it, ingrain it in your brain, put it on a post-it note, and wake up to it every single morning. You're looking to get onto the map. You need to snowball. You are something that will become less valuable the more behind you are. You are not a tank who can at least just malphite ult someone and go, hey, I'm 0-8, but look at what I just did. I knocked up the Janna. Now, if you're an Evelynn, you're not looking to just stop at the Janna. You want to do the entire team. That's why we love Futures Market and Treasure Hunter on all of these champions to some degree. Shaco is the only sort of different kind of jungler here, but he's still an assassin in his pure sense. And remember, itemization early is so important to snowball, which means if you die from your early game plan in terms of ganks, invades, or whatever you might be trying to do for that snowball, it's okay, but obviously only if you get kills back. I mean, don't run it down and be 0-2-0, that's pretty bad, but if you're 3-2-0, 4-2-1, these things work out because your gold is more useful than the gold on the enemy. And even so, if you have, say, a weaker game and you are struggling to kind of get those kills, but you're able to get 6, you're able to get a herald and some tower plates, as long as you have the gold advantage, that's all that really matters, because in Mythic, the serrated Dirks, the Yam Terms, the Rocket Belts, all of these things come together so you can kill enemy targets. Remember, that's the entire goal here, but to what end? Well, first I need to show you, look at this Rengar. This is Scrubby, a little bit of a level 1 pressure play here to get a kill. The enemy says 1, he says, hey, I'm a tank, I will always be useful, but the Rengar will be able to annihilate me if he gets a lead. So I'm going to instigate vertical jungling. Not always the best idea. And that's why you're going to see Rengars and other sorts of assassin junglers try these late or early invades because it allows them to compromise the enemy jungler. You remove the enemy jungler, now laners are free for ganks. Now quadrant controls are yours. You can control the bottom side entirely, vertical it. You can control 3 quadrants and out-farm and deny. This is the whole thing. If you don't have laners to gank, I want you to live in their jungle. An assassin jungler who AFK farms is not a very good jungler. Now you might think, oh, what about Evelynn? She AFK farms. What about Kayn? If you're AFK farming on these champions, you're missing the point of the measured aggression. I didn't say you should run around like a headless chicken and squirting all your juices all over the place. No, you are something that needs to say, okay, look, I'm not a Rengar, I'm not going to be a talent, but I have a game-changing ultimate. I have a game-changing minigame for those orbs that will turn me into a god champion. So you need to play around your sequencing, full sequence, and then play around the ganking in that downtime. Counter ganking through tracking is specific for your game plans and your measured aggression. When your ult is up, you're playing around and using that ultimate. So if you're someone who plays an assassin like a Rengar and you struggle to get going, someone like an Evelynn, a Kayn, it's because you're too passive in that early phase. Something like a Zed, same thing. You can 258 full clear. What are we doing between now and when that Grom spawns again? What are we doing between now and when we get level 6? Once we have level 6, are we sitting on our ult or are we using our ult? Use it as often as you can whenever it's up, and that's either through laners, counter-ganking the enemy jungler, or invading the enemy jungler. And you would have seen clips in this whole early game phase here showcasing different plays, but mostly the Rengar game, showing you how even though he didn't get all the kills, he stacked his bone tooth, he won a lane by camping it, always a good strategy, and he removed the enemy jungler from an entire quadrant, allowing him that objective control. If you cannot translate your kills through ultimates to heralds and dragons, you're basically announcing to the world that you're a Targaryen bastard rather than a purebreed. And that's not what you want to be, is it? However, most of you are kind of decent at this, right? You understand the flex clears at different routes. I will link a video below showcasing every single route in the game. You can look at those and understand what the optimizations will be for your specifically chosen assassin champion. But if you're not a full clearer, please don't full clear. Don't want to see full clearing Kha'Zix not ganking. Get in their face. Use your damage. But very typically, assassins like Evelynn and Kayn's, for example, especially when you go Shadow Assassin, what stops you carrying the game? This transition from the early game to the mid game, where you're playing one of these champions and you just didn't get the snowball, or maybe you did and you don't know what to do. Let's have a look at that. And obviously, I just made a video on how to choose which is the best class for you to play, comparing all of these, and I plan on making an in-depth video for all of the classes much like this one, condensed information, but only if that's what you want to see. be, and obviously the best way to let me know that is by smiting that like button. It's the best way for you to tell me what you want to see. So the mid-game philosophy here is as follows, and we can follow this Evelynn on this journey because it's a great example of staying out longer than you need to, of playing the map advantage, and obviously setting yourself up to dominate team fights when that time arrives, and that will of course be in the next section. So what you have to use is a little bit of your powers of imagination. I can't show every example of every single assassin doing every single little thing. The whole goal though is always to use whatever lead you have, whatever itemization spike you have to get one pick. Just look for one pick, that's all you're trying to do. Translate that into moving into the enemy jungle. As you see here, the Evelynn kind of struggles with that, gets caught out a little bit, her team helps out. Now in other situations, you might have to handle this business yourself, you might simply have to leave. The ultimate endgame of this obviously is to use that herald that you've secured in the top side, on the top lane to get some plates down. Knock them down, get some gold, go back to base, use that itemization spike advantage. And here's where true assassins, true great assassin players will start to see the flow of the game slow down. Your team's struggling to break those outer tier 1s, your team isn't collating and grouping enough for you to really do anything about the state of the game. Okay then, you're fed, you've done your job in the early phases, you had the right game plan, do your quadrant now, head to the side lane, whether it's top lane or bot lane, make a pick on the person who is overcommitting their side push. There will always be someone doing that. Guarantee it, you just have to find them. And hopefully noted, this game is actually in a deficit and the Evelynn will have to carry these moments. If you are unable to find a single pick around this time of the game, even if there's a deficit in the game, your positioning is probably suboptimal, or you're not finding the pick before farming. In this case, what happened was, yeah, we win the 2v2, but we did our quadrant before farming because there was nothing available. If we needed to gank first and then do our quadrant, we could do so. But as you're seeing, the next thing is to do it again because the enemy team are not moving their pieces and our team are not moving their pieces. And in low elo, mid elos, 99% of elos, everyone ends up being quite stagnant. And there is the underlying philosophy of the assassin of the mid game. Please do not give them a numbers advantage. Please always make it so that you, the assassin, have the numbers advantage. If you don't have the numbers advantage, you haven't been making enough picks. Now most assassins are quite good at mobility around the map, using whatever passive mobility over the wall, ghost blade kind of stuff that they have in their kit to actually get from situation A to B to C. And you need to keep your eyes up because yes, we translate these picks into more farm, into more objectives, into falling back to even more farm, but look at the top lane. Nara's overpushed, make that kill. Now look in mid lane, someone's out of position, make that kill. Translate that into what? Another objective. Is there a buff? Is there a grump you can snack while you're waiting for everyone to reset? Great, do so. But don't take the whole quadrant and keep farming. Look mid lane, everyone's back. Go back to the mid lane, you have the herald now. You're just continuously removing one, removing two, removing one. They can never settle up and group as a 5v5 because every time they're putting themselves on the map, the assassin is there to say, no. We're struggling to track the enemy junglers, so we go probing to see maybe they're sitting in a bush, maybe they're here, maybe they're there. Oh, they're nowhere. Okay, I fall back to my camps. You see how she's consistently looking for that pick. She's consistently putting herself in a position to annihilate someone because she has the right itemization. She has the lead when her team does not. And this is normalizing and stalling the game such that her team can catch up a little bit, and then we will end up in teamfight scenarios. So whether you are Rengar, Kha'Zix, you're a Talon, you can be a Kiana, an Echo, you're always looking for these kinds of plays. Blue Assassin Kayn is one of the best at this because of his E ability. Very fun and fair ability, mind you. And as you would have seen, this teamfight wasn't exactly the best we were forced to execute. However, let's look at, say, for example, a Kha'Zix. You set yourself in a bush, you want to flank the fight, and you try and jump in on someone. It doesn't work out, so you have to reposition and get up, and now you have no HP, and you're playing front to back. What good are you in a front to back scenario unless you have someone in your team with CC, unless you have the CC, and unless you can make their pick in that front to back sense? No, the goal for team fighting for all assassins, and I want you to remember this now, flanking and splitting. That's what we want here. Now, I've spoken about the suction effect in the past where, say, for example, a Shadow Assassin Kayn will just eat through the wall, jump into 5 people, hit a 5-man W, he's forced to ult to get out of their CC chain, he can extract himself and of course disappear again, but the enemy team has used flashes, summoners, heals, all kinds of spells to put him out of his misery, but then of course they've used that and your team can play off of it. Problem is, in lower elos, if you can't kill them, you're not going to be able to do so. And you're seeing more clips of this Kha'Zix make bad engages from the front, from the side. He's eating too many spells and having to respace because he isn't able to kill the target he's going on. Please understand the limit spike of your champion. That will come through experience. That's why leads are so damn good. But what you're looking for as an assassin is either a flanking position whereby you go around the enemy team using great vision control, scanners. Evelynn doesn't really have that issue. Putting yourself in a corner, putting yourself in a situation where they're going to engage in your team thinking, hey, we have numbers advantage, but then you show up and you kill their squishy. But that's also why it's so important for that philosophy in the mid game to carry over here. If you can make a pick on someone, you never have to 5v5 teamfight, and the teamfights themselves become quite easy. If you're not able to make those picks and they're grouping up together for, say, a dragon, and you have no time to flank, you see here what the Evelynn does is wait for that split on the team. As soon as some of them go left and some of them go right, pick the side that you think you can definitely kill people quickly, the reposition, and then chase the rest down. You have to be able to recognize that in an instant, and that's a skill. And in games where you have the lead, and of course you see this situation, the Rengar is straight up flanking. Scrubnum knows the team are going to engage, they're going to try and fight here. He waits for his team to engage, forcing the enemy team to use their spells to get chunked, and then you can kind of just show up and clean up. You don't want to be the first body in a fight. So from the Kha'Zix clips, you do that, you severely compromised, and you're not going to be able to do much to control the fight thereafter. Always look for those flanking positions, and if, for example, you're a Kha'Zix player who really wants to know how to teamfight as that squishy bug assassin, I'll link a gameplay below showing you one of the best players at doing that. It's a little bit of an art form, but without a doubt, you always have to keep your eyes on which of the targets I need to annihilate. Is it the Soraka? Is it the ADC? What spells am I looking to avoid from the enemy team in terms of CC that I need them to use on my team before I go in? And if you're the Evelynn or something like that, yes, definitely try and make those picks before the fight even happens. But if it does and you're forced to approach from the front, wait for that one CC spell to hit, jump in on it, play off of your team, and then keep chasing down one kill at a time. And yes, it even works for Evelynn's, it works for Rengar's. Anything that classically might just want to flank a fight, you don't necessarily have to if your team has the ability to make some sort of pick or play. But should your team be losers and they're not actually doing anything and they keep getting engaged on, that's fine. As long as the enemy team isn't focusing on you and you're being very, very patient with your spells, then we can go in. That's number one. Number two, in terms of all of this, is once you're in, what do? You have to be able to go in and out gameplay. That means use your spells, unload your damage, get your executes, get your kills, then leave the situation. All assassins will have to do that. We saw an example from a Rengar clip, and I'll show it again, where he goes in, tries to get a kill here, the rest of the team is destroying his team, he just ults to reposition, circles around, waits for them to split up, and then annihilates them again. That level of repositioning is huge. Kha'Zix obviously has his ultimate, he has his E. Evelynn has her ultimate whereby she can obviously kill people and then reposition, use her passive to heal up, and then enter back in again. Every assassin has something that allows them to reposition using in and out gameplay and then put themselves in another situation when those cooldowns are refreshed. It's on you to have that patience for your engages, and I really stress remembering and having that discipline to say, look, I need my team to go in first. If I'm going to go in by myself here like the Kha'Zix was in this clips, I have to be certain I can make that pick. I have to be certain I can kill them and get out. If you aren't, don't do it, because as soon as you die, you're going to be leaving the fate of the game to your teammates. And do you really want to do that? No, that's why you're the assassin. So if you're an assassin player who doesn't have the most damage every game or top damage every game, and I don't care if you have 20 kills, if you're dying 10, 11, 12 times, your positioning isn't good. You're just using the damage to kind of get kills and then die. That's not very good when it comes to trying to carry games. Survivability is critical, but not through tanking damage, through positioning, through in and out gameplay, and through understanding what is the best method for me to team fight against their team front to back or flanking. And then obviously the whole tenet is make sure that they can never 5v5 in the first place. But if they do, I'm ready to tackle it. And ultimately, then we can circle back to the beginning of this video, which says, well, if I want to avoid team fights altogether and their coin flip nature, or just have such a lead that I run them over, you need to have a good game plan. You need to understand how to get snowballing quickly, and obviously that was addressed in the first section. So there you have it, tips and tricks and philosophies for the assassin jungler. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment if you did enjoy and learn something. And in terms of all the early game pathing macros and the builds and the roots, if that's a bit overwhelming for you as you are learning champions, all my live companions are the GG guides. I have the best season 13 builds, I have the best season 13 roots, plus the early game macro tips that will help you navigate that and get as fed as you possibly can so that you can snowball into the mid and the late game and have a lot of fun like this Evelynn and Rengar did. If you are looking to become the best supreme jungler of season 13 with all the best jungle principles that allow you to carry with any class, click the video in the box in the top right.